Yeah, it's a bit of a change of pace. Yeah. Sup, guys? We were going to call it Bucs Bants, but apparently the font looked terrible, and we all hate the word Bant. Well, far closer than it should have been. Certainly in the first half. They were very, very productive offensively, but due to a combination of terrible kicker play, which I've been saying far too much these last few years, missed opportunities, particularly that last 2-minute drive when you were at first and goal at the 1, having to settle for a chip shot. It let the Giants hang around. The fact we were only up by 6 points at half time when you got missed a extra point. I mean, that game we could have been up 24-10. Instead, it was 16. So let the Giants hang around, went cold for a bit, missed another field goal, managed to pull it out at the end. But it was a pretty solid performance from the offense. Defensively, mediocre. Well, we discussed this earlier, and I was saying it yesterday. Once he missed that second field goal, at the end of the day, this game, even if we escape or not, you got to look at another kicker at this point, because that game, as far as I'm concerned, it was an omen. It's like it's a warning. If you don't sort this out, it's going to cost us a game or two, and that could be the difference between making the playoffs for the first time in forever, or finishing 9-7 or 8-8.
Indeed, I'm also aware, apparently, that my mic was messing up for the first half, so I may have been inaudible and it sounded like you were talking to yourself, which is awesome. But this was a kind of a rush job, so hopefully it's fixed now. So, are there any key points offensively? Well, we'll do it as we did with Arnie's Titans report. We broke down the offense, defense, and then coaching scheme. So is there any main points from the offense you took away from this game? I mean, I thought when I was watching it, at least, it looked like Mike Evans had a couple of drops, but I'm guessing that was more good defensive play than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, Evans was kept pretty quiet in this one. I mean, it's his second week in a row going up against a top-end corner. Janoris Jenkins is a heck of a player. One of those drops was on Evans. The other one, I think, was a good defensive play. You'd still like to see him bring it in, of course. I thought Evans had an okay day. Nice catch for the touchdown. Made a big play that set us up for that first and goal. Came up big at the end of the game with a couple of key first down conversions. But the thing with Evans is he makes such tough catches. You rarely see him wide open. A lot of it is just him getting that inside position and just using his body, making tough body catches, those important possession catches, just keep drives going. I think that's his, and as well as being a great red zone target. I think those are his primary functions in this offense. It's not like last year where he had to do it all himself. He's got some help, and I think yesterday's game was a great example of the depth that the Buccaneers now have at receiver. Deshaun Jackson was quiet in this game. Mike Evans was quiet in this game. And yet, Jameis Winston's still able to have a 3-touchdown performance and go over 300 yards.
Yeah, what about D-Jax? I didn't... Because I was trying to watch the Bucs game while simultaneously watching like 5 others at the time. What was...
Deshaun Jackson, him and Winston have timing issues at the moment. There was a big play down the middle of the field in the third quarter. Could easily have been a big, massive touchdown. Jameis Winston overthrew him. better to overthrow him than underthrow him, but that should have been 6 points. Wasn't an easy throw, but you'd like to see him make those, and that's the second or third sort of one he's missed this season. And there were a couple of throws that were behind him. 2-point conversion that we went for, that was an easy throw behind him. A couple other ones, one of them where Deshaun Jackson made a ridiculous catch behind his body, but he was very quiet in this one. I think those two will get it together, and this team will be a lot more dangerous when they do, but it's just not quite there yet on the deep ball.
Well, yeah, I mean, we suspected going into the season the chemistry with D-Jax would have to be built up over time. I mean, I think there's a lot of quarterbacks in the league right now who are throwing to receivers they've never thrown to before.
Well, and in Winston's case, he's never had a speedster in Tampa. This is the first time he's had one. And as I said, at least he's overthrowing him. He's not underthrowing him.
Yeah, we actually have a question from the chat, because apparently Arnie wants to take part through the chat. He says, the Bucs secondary looked a lot better this week. How big of an impact having Brent Grimes back do you think this has made to the team?
All of the difference. He was really good yesterday. Really good. Without him, we don't have anyone that you can trust to play straight up man coverage. He made a couple of big plays on third downs where the Giants looked down the sidelines for Odell Beckham deep. Broke up both of those. He's just very rarely out of position. Makes a world of difference, especially when you're going up against a team with as many weapons as the Giants have. But yeah, significant. Significant. I mean, it's worrying that you could look at our defensive MVP being a 34-year-old cornerback, but it's between him and Gerald at this point.
Oh yeah, just imagine how good your secondary would have been if you guys had kept hold of Talib and paired him with Grimes.
Well, Talib was never going to reach those heights in Tampa. He needed a kick up the arse, unfortunately.
Oh, definitely. What about your on the offensive side? We'll stick with a bit. What about this the running game or lack thereof? I think still in Tampa.
Yesterday the run game was productive enough. I mean, this is a tough Giants team to run on. Jacquizz Rodgers managed to pop a big run in the first quarter. Wasn't really able to break many, but he's not really that kind of player. He's not the most elusive, but he's got more power to him. He was able to churn out 3, 4, 5 yards when we needed them, kept the team balanced. And last week we didn't have that against the Vikings. This week we did. It made a big difference. I mean, the time of possession, that's the weirdest thing about this game, is the Giants dominated the time of possession. But we needed it. And I think, considering the team we were up against, and this team gets Doug Martin back, things should step up significantly. I was slightly concerned that Charles Sims only got the ball twice in this one, so I don't know what that says about his role moving forward, especially as I think Jacquizz Rodgers has done a good enough job in these 3 games to at least warrant a look in over the course of the rest of this season. But yeah, no, it was good yesterday. The offensive line really deserves a lot of praise, I think, for yesterday's performance. To only give up the 1 sack in that game, James Winston had plenty of time throughout this one, and to run block pretty well against a good group. Easily their best game of the season. They should take a lot of confidence from that one. The only issue is Ali Marpet had a couple of dodgy snaps again yesterday. So I guess that's the risk with playing a guy at centre for the first time in his career. But yeah, they held up well yesterday. Jason Pierre-Paul was basically anonymous in this one.
Yeah, it's quite surprising for JPP as we call him to be absent from impacting.
Well, Vernon was doubtful heading into the game, and he went out injured in the second quarter, didn't return. Damon Harrison, and me, I love snacks, my kind of player. He went down at one point. He came back into the game, but he didn't look fully healthy to me. But the Giants, they were unable to generate pressure early in this one. That's why the Bucs got out to that big lead. Things changed a bit. They started, Spagnuolo did what Spagnuolo does and started blitzing like a madman. and they managed to start getting pressure that way. But that was more through numbers than bad offensive line play.
Yeah. Before we move on to the defensive side of the ball, which I'm pretty sure is both your and Arnie's preferred side of the ball, is the defense.
Well, we got to tight ends. Significant in Tampa right now.
But we'll talk about Jameis quickly. Now, obviously, I'm not on the Jameis fan train, as you well know. We've had multiple arguments about this. But he played a clean game for the first time this season.
He played a clean game against the Bears in week 1. Well, week 2.
It was the Bears.
It was still a clean game. Bears' defense is pretty good. But, yeah, I mean, the thing with Jameis, he's always going to give the defense some opportunities because he's going to force some passes. The question to me is whether they're reasonable passes. Like the ones yesterday, he made a couple. One to Deshaun Jackson in like double coverage on a slant. It was a perfectly thrown ball. There was another one to Mike Evans on a 3rd down, just absolutely lasered in. And I think a lot of quarterbacks wouldn't attempt these throws. You wouldn't see Tom Brady attempt that throw. You wouldn't see. Well, you'd see like guys like Drew Brees will make that throw, but some of the more conservative QBs won't. So you've just got to accept that that's going to happen. It's got to be. Yesterday was the best kind of game you're probably going to get from Jameis at this stage in his career, where it's calculated risks rather than, the kind of you only live once, Brett Favre type interceptions.
Oh, but the gunslingers are the most fun to watch. It's
Yeah, and Jameis is definitely fun to watch. But yeah, yesterday controlled kind of lunacy from him. His decision making was very good in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's what you'd expect from a progression standpoint for a young QB, is he's actually he's showing progress. He's attempting, as you said, those calculated risk throws. I mean, if you compare him to his classmate Mariota, I don't think you could have two opposite sides of the coin with those two.
Yeah, there's every game you can probably point to about 6 to 8 throws Jameis is attempting that Mariota wouldn't attempt. Now, there's a big difference in those guys' arm strength. I'm not, knocking Mariota. Mariota's got a fine arm, but when you're looking at Winston, you're looking at the arm talent. He's up there with your Staffords, your Roethlisberger. He's one of the top 5 arms in football. So you've got to use that. That's the thing. Those throws may be ill-advised every now and then, but what's the point in having a guy with the ability to make those throws if he's not going to make them?
Yeah, and it also explains the Deshaun Jackson signing, because there's no point in having a guy who can stretch the field if you can't actually throw it up to it.
Well, the thing that's been strangest with it, and this is what the Bucs did really well yesterday, and it's something I've been saying they've needed to do for a while, and that was attack the middle of the field. It's not something James has done much of or been very effective doing over the first couple of years of his career. But yesterday had some success doing it. Adam Humphries had a really big impact in this game. As I mentioned earlier, they kept Deshaun Jackson and Mike Evans quiet. It was Adam Humphries and Cameron Brate who ended up being the most significant players in this one for the Bucs. Cameron Brate did nothing early on, but ended up coming up huge in the 4th quarter. And Humphries just came up with key catches over the course of this game.
Yeah, see, this just shows my neglect of the Buccaneers. I only know two names of your wide receivers.
Well, Adam Humphries is the little tiny white dude that plays in the slot that no one knows other than Buccaneers fans. And Cameron Brate, he led the league in touchdowns last year at tight end. He's got 2 already this year. It's you see a lot of people saying, why isn't OJ Howard catching the ball more? And it's because they've already got a really good receiving tight end there in Tampa. It was always going to be hard for OJ Howard to dislodge him. Howard is there because he's an exceptional blocker, and he's played well in that facet so far. And upside-wise, yes, he could be a superior player to Brate. But Brate's got a really good understanding with Jameis at the moment. He's one of his favourite targets, and he's an exceptional red zone receiver.
Oh yeah, always nice to have that red zone. Where I think a lot of teams at least have maybe the one player who's reliable enough to target
You're
the
looking at your last 20 games for, definitely last 18. He's a guy who's got 10 touchdowns.
Yeah. Well, if we move to the defensive side of the ball, I know this was a bit of a concern for you going into this game in a way because you've got quite a few injuries on the defensive side.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I expected. The guys I expected to miss the game missed the game. Levante David and Quan Alexander, both star linebackers. TJ Ward missed the game. My worry was if Grimes was missing. Fortunately, he played. The D linemen all played, so it wasn't a giant mess in that regard. But it was certainly a big concern. Didn't bite them too much. I actually thought the one thing I have to give the Bucs massive credit for, and I was dubious of this at the time, was when the linebacker we selected in the 3rd round, we traded up to get him, Kendall Beckwith. He was playing at middle linebacker yesterday, and he had a really good game. Led the team in tackles, had a couple of key pass breakups on 3rd downs, one on Evan Ingram that was just really well played. And I thought they wouldn't really need him. I thought we'd be playing nickel all year. It would be Quan and Levante at linebacker and 3 corners. But this guy's been too good to keep off the field. And, with those injuries, it's a bit of luck, I suppose, that makes it look like a master stroke. But it's really worked out well for them.
Oh, I was good. By the sounds of it, then the Tampa Bay have lucked into some good depth in the linebacking core.
We're okay at depth there. I mean, we're pretty poor just about everywhere else. I like our depth at defensive tackle and at linebacker, and everywhere else I'm concerned. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Grimes didn't play, I think the result may have gone the other way because you really had no one who could have reliably covered Odell, which is in itself a monumental task.
Well, I mean, the Bucs were lucky in some ways. The Giants got off to a really slow start in this one, as they've been wont to do. Odell didn't really come alive until late in this one, and Eli took an age to find his rhythm. But once he did, they became pretty good. They don't seem to be able to hit on deep and intermediate stuff so far this year, the Giants. But once they started the dinky dunk stuff, they were looking quite good. But yeah, Grimes is just such a big upgrade on guys. They're really waiting for Vernon Hargreaves to step up. He just doesn't play with confidence at the moment to me. He's always in position and he's nearby, but he's just not making the play while the ball's in the air. It's always like the guy catches it and he tackles him. And he's a bit too easy to target right now.
Sounds like he's a bit too much of a conservative playmaker.
Yeah,
tackle the guy instead of attacking the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to watch the difference between how he plays the ball when it's in the air and how Grimes does. Now, don't get me wrong, Grimes has seen everything there's to see in this league, but Hargreaves needs to get there because Grimes ain't going to be around forever.
No. I mean, how old is Grimes now? He's
34.
34, so he's got what? 2 years maybe, if he doesn't
you never
his legs.
He could turn up next year and his legs could fall off. You just cornerback, you don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah. Is there any major takeaways you've got for your defense from this week, as opposed to the travesty that was that Vikings game?
Edge rush is a big problem. I've said constantly, I like the Bucs' ability to stop the run. Did a good job of it this weekend. Not going to look too much into it. Was the Giants after all, but the edge rush, like Noah Spence, I quite like, but he's not there yet where he's a consistent threat. And Robert Ayers and Golston are 2 starters. They're both really good run players, but they're unexceptional pass rushers. So that edge rush hasn't been there at all. It's at the minute our pass rush is Gerald McCoy and the odd Noah Spence play, and it's not quite good enough. We're getting pressures. It's just converting them into sacks. It just isn't happening.
Yeah,
Gerald McCoy's had a great start to the season though.
Yeah, but poor Gerald, you can't rely on him to basically be the entire defensive line.
He needs his Simeon Rice. Like, as a Bucs fan, we had Sapp, we had Rice. Sapp would chase the dude around, Simeon Rice would play clean up. We don't have the clean-up guy.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the points I made to you when we were watching the Bucs. Is you don't have your Simeon Rice to McCoy Sapp.
Well, I mean, if you look at yesterday's game, Gerald McCoy on the first 2 plays from scrimmage in this one had 2 tackles for a loss. And then on their second drive, he had another 2 pressures. And then they were like, well, we'll double him on every play. And every time the Giants dropped back, they were double teaming Gerald McCoy. And no one else was able to do anything.
Well, it's to be expected, though. I mean...
Yeah, but you need someone else to try and free him up. Every now and then he's got to get one-on-one lock in. But very rare, doubled on just about every snap.
Well, if I remember correctly, Tampa play, 4-3, Tampa 2, aren't you, primarily?
Yeah. Well, we're not a Tampa 2 team anymore, but we're a 4-3 zone type team.
Yeah, I mean, would there be no credit to bring in like the odd 5-man blitz to try and free up Gerald?
I don't think at the minute we trust the defensive backfield to hold up well enough. Maybe you'll see it when Quan and Levante are there, but with the inexperienced linebackers we had yesterday, you're not going to see us bringing too much pressure.
Surely with Grimes back though, there's that option's on the table. I mean, you've got a nice safety net there with Grimes.
You've got nothing but question marks at coverage at the linebacker position with Levante and Quan out. Bear in mind, Quan in particular is an exceptional pass coverage linebacker, and Levante is pretty good there too. So if they're both there, first off, especially in Levante's case, they're exceptional blitzers, but they can also cover, so it gives you just that little bit more versatility. I think when you've got some unknowns there, you don't necessarily want to chance it, especially if you look at the group of pass catchers that the Giants have, they could punish you.
Oh yeah, I suppose, basically letting Beckham have almost free reign would have that could have been disastrous.
Sterling Shepard's dangerous after the catch. Evan Ingram, he flashed a couple of times yesterday. He's going to be a good player for him. It's a dangerous group of pass catchers. So
it is indeed. To kind of wrap up, do you want to do your little rant about your kicker, since this has been a massive issue in Tampa for 2 years?
It has been a massive issue. We've got a great punter. Our punter's awesome.
Yeah, but punts don't technically convert points now, do they?
As I say, it could have cost us the game yesterday. This game should have been a very comfortable win. Should have been going in at half time with this one wrapped up, and it just to emphasise it, like the fact that he missed that field goal at the start of the third quarter, once again with an opportunity to have a 2-possession lead, and then he shanked that one as well. I just feel like it was a warning. You've got to be able to make those kicks. I mean, yeah, he made the game winner, but it was a chip shot, and even then he barely made that. We went for it on 4th down at one point in this. I think it was a 53-yard field goal that would have took the lead, and we decided to go for it because we didn't trust him. I mean, what's the point in having a kicker if you can't trust him in that situation?
It seems to be definitely a weird thing in the NFL the past season and a half, I think now, where kickers just can't kick. I mean, I know the pain. We had in Arizona, we had Cantazzaro last year. You guys still had Robert Aguayo.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's tough because sometimes the kickers have like these terrible spells and they get out of them, but I don't know. He was crap in pre-season, missed a couple in week 1. It's not exactly trending upward, and you're a team with playoff aspirations. You need someone back there you can rely on.
Yeah, I think we discussed this earlier before this cast actually, was that it will cost you a game. There's going to be 1 or 2 games this season that the game will be lost because your kickers shanked it, basically.
Yes, certainly possible. There's a lot of close games that you have to win in this league, and kicker can be the big difference maker.
Especially in your division. I mean, you've got the newly resurgent Panthers, the Saints, and obviously the Super Bowl runner-up Falcons. I mean, those are going
Yeah,
to be some close games.
the concern for the Bucs is, we could be a very good team this year. We could go it's not inconceivable we go 10-6 and miss out on the playoffs, because I think the NFC South is clearly the best collection of teams in the NFC, and they're going to beat up on each other, and it may let some. And they've, some of the other teams just have easier schedules, so it could end up costing them. The Falcons look like they're going to be strong. The Panthers, I'm still not convinced by, but if Cam Newton can continue to play like he did yesterday, and then the Saints, they're always a threat. Drew Brees is there; they're a threat.
Plus, obviously, with the when you combine the kicker situation with the fact that you guys don't get a bye week now, man, there's going to be some tough times for Tampa. I mean, if you guys make the playoffs, that's going to be some effort and a half.
Well, I think Thursday's game is big for the Bucs. If we can pull the win out against the Pats, obviously the team comes out of that one feeling good, and essentially, that break from the Thursday through to the following, that's the closest thing they've got to a bye week now. So I think that's big. But if they can get that win, they'll then be tied at the top of the division with the Falcons and the Panthers. And frankly, maybe with the Giants not being as good as people thought they were, but what looked like a pretty tough stretch of games to start the season, coming out 3-1 would feel pretty good and set them up pretty well. They've got an easier stretch in the middle portion of the season, where you can see some teams that they should beat. And the Patriots at the minute, they've got some issues. Certainly expect to see the Buccaneers putting up a lot of points on Thursday. I would be shocked if they don't, especially with Doug Martin back. I think that's got the potential to be huge for this team. Because if it's the good Doug Martin, then this offense gets significantly better.
Oh, I remember good Doug Martin. That rookie season was something else. That was.
Well, even 2 years ago when he was second in the league, he's had two All-Pro seasons where he's been a top 3 running back, and then 3 seasons where he's been an injured, slow mess. So hopefully it's the good Doug. He looked good in pre-season, and as I say, if he's back, we've got depth at running back. I like Jaquiz as a number 2. Sims can help in the passing game. If they get good Doug, look out. It's a dangerous offense, especially as that some of them continue to develop and get on the same page.
Yeah, it would be nice to see proper Doug back. He's a very dynamic runner, and I have always enjoyed watching him play. Before we wrap up though, obviously you've got 16 straight games now because of the week 1 bye you had. You've already had injuries on the roster. Going forward, are you more worried that players are going to keep dropping?
I think if you don't have the bye week, you've got to be a little more conservative with some of the injuries. Now, I think that I don't know the severity of the Quan Alexander one, because they've been very much saying it's day to day. He's missed 2 games in a row now and missed the vast majority of the game against the Bears. I don't know if that's maybe one of them where they consider putting him in. It's like this game with the short turnaround. I'm expecting both Levante and Quan to miss this game as well. I think they'll both be back for the following game. But it's not too bad, all things considered, how things looked at the end of the Vikings game injury-wise. Most of those guys played on Sunday. I haven't heard anything that would suggest they re-aggravated the injuries or suffered further injuries. So, yeah, I just think it's, as I said at the start of this, they're going to be a bit more conservative with the guys that do get hurt, especially in some of them soft tissue injuries, the ones that are able to linger and very easy to re-aggravate. I think those are the ones they'll be most cautious with.
Yeah, I mean, last thing any team wants is injuries, and the last thing you want is injuries on a non-bye week schedule.
Well, they do say, and someone did say it in week 2, and obviously it's an early part of the season, but there is something to be said for, some of the teams that make the playoffs simply because they're some of the healthiest teams over the course of the season. I mean, you look at the Falcons last year. That team basically went through the season almost unscathed.
Yeah, it is very rare a team that gets to the playoffs is a team that's unscathed. Sorry.
Well, no one will ever get totally unscathed, but there's levels. You've got teams like the Vikings, the Ravens, the Chargers, who are just decimated, and then you've got some teams that have stayed relatively clean thus far. So it's a huge amount of luck to it, but
yeah. Well, hopefully your guys can stay healthy. If anything, for your sanity as well as the team's success. Any last things to add?
I was going to say, Thursday's game's big. It just feels like this division is one you don't want to fall behind the 8 ball in, especially with in the case of this division, all of the divisional games are right at the end of the season. So clearly the NFL figured. I think they figured this division could be pretty good and have a lot of stories in it. I mean, you just have to look at the 4 QBs in there. It looks entertaining on that alone. So, yeah, it's got to keep things close. They had to get the win against the Giants, I think, because that would have been a big hole, being bottom of the division, a game behind everyone with the Pats coming up. But if they can get the win against the Patriots, I'll come out of this first quarter of the season feeling really good about life, because I think this team's going to get better. I still think it's a very young team at most spots. There's a fair few new players on offense. They'll keep improving. 3-1 would be a great way to begin the year, heading into a slightly softer stretch of game. And they need to find a pass rush.
One day you'll get to relive the pass rush of the early 2000s. One day.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty much at the time limit for this little segment. It's actually been 30 minutes, and there was us thinking it would be 15.
Yeah, it is. I can talk Bucs all day.
Yeah, this is true. Right, well, we hope you've enjoyed watching this. Obviously, leave us a comment on your thoughts on the Bucs. Like and subscribe it, because it will share it around. This is also unusual for Conboy, since he's normally the one doing this.
Yeah.
But that should pretty much...
Remind people, it's the round table tomorrow, man. That's the big one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot, actually. Yeah, we are moving the round table podcast we do from Wednesday to Tuesdays now. And obviously, we'll be discussing all of the happenings of Week 4 within reason, while giving previews of Week 5's games.
Yep, always a good one.
Yeah, and obviously you've got the you're going to be picking the Bucs against the Pats because you have to.
I probably would anyway, even if I remove the
Bucs.
I just think the Bucs will get points in that one, and I trust the Bucs D a little bit more than the Patriots right now.
I think everyone does. Right, we will be back in about 10 or 15 minutes, guys, to do the Titan report, which is probably going to be quite short, considering
it was Titans talk. I thought it was Titans talk.
Names are fluid. But
alliteration or die.
Anyway, enough of this nonsense. Yeah, please like, comment, subscribe on this once it's uploaded
People like
to the channel.
Nonsense.
And we'll see you again soon, guys, so take care.
Have a good one, y'all. Go Bucs.